Oh, this one might be a little challenging to verbalize. You know how you hear people say an identity crisis or a midlife crisis or many different things. You know, we have shakeups in our life all the time. And some of us have such a shakeup that we lose all form of identity, which can be a really good thing. This is really, really challenging your ego. But most people can't handle it. So they do grasp to any identity they can hang on to, and they hold on to it for dear life. And they want to keep that familiar. So these are the people who are just scared to death of change. And don't look at that necessarily as bad. I mean, their psyche, their ego, it just can't handle it. They're just not ready, right? And so others who have been through a true identity crisis, right? Like a loss of all identity. Right, like I lost all, like I was no longer a wife, I was no longer a mother, I was no longer, like all these didn't even like live in the same area. I mean, nothing. There was nothing was familiar, like even friends, like all of it changed. And it all seemed to happen overnight. And it's destabilizing and challenging. And some people don't ever make it out of it, right? Some people... it can happen from major life events. It can happen from deaths. It can happen from loss of job. It can happen from so many things, but then it ripples out into so many other areas of our lives. And so people will tend to grasp on what they do know, what is familiar, to attempt to stabilize themselves, attempt to have some sense of identity, some sense of self, some sense of ego. Because it can be challenging to just let it all crumble down around you. But it's also freeing and recognizing it is the control you have, the control to let go, the control to allow it to go, and not fight it. And like I don't think there's anybody who hasn't been through something, right? Like you've been through some shakeup in your life, likely many, many of them throughout your life, from big to small. You know, there's changes all the time, but you've always had some sense of identity. You were your mother's child, you were your father's child, you were your sibling's sibling, right? You're a mother, a father, a friend, whatever job you do. Like you have something that you are identifying with, whether you realize it, recognize it, or not. And so they were showing me quite a few people who had been through a lot of changes like we all have, but they were the ones still stuck in their ego and battling it, where they were fighting for their old life and their old sense of identity, holding on to that identity for dear life, not seeing that's what they were doing. It's almost instinctual in that it's normalized as society to be seen that way, to fight for what is yours, right? When there is no going backwards. So, it was painful to watch quite a few. And it's painful to think of how that dynamic has played out in so many people's lives that I know. And it was painful for me to do the other, drop it all, right? Like I don't think there's an easy path. It's just the choices we make. You know, are you going to keep fighting for the old familiar that didn't work out and that is crumbling through your hands and you're scrambling to keep because you just are too fragile to accept the reality of the new? And then they don't invest in the new. So then they're scrambling to keep the old. And another thing that was interesting was it was a sense that some had accepted the release. And it was like they were waiting for their partners to catch up. But the partners thought it was the other way around because they just couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle it. So they villainized the one that had let it all go, had allowed the ego to drop fully and completely. They actually did the harder thing. And yet it's not often seen that way because as a society, fight for what is rightfully yours. Fight for it. Fight for it. It's like, oh my God. It's just a different way to look at things, right? Like we're all going to do what's, I don't even know. You're going to do what you're going to do is what it is. Unless you choose something different. I find it all fascinating. I really do. I love watching people's choices and how their choices play out in their life. Don't you find that fascinating? And the more you learn yourself, the more you can see their choices more clearly and see why they're choosing what they're choosing and why what is happening is happening. Like you can see why they're receiving the consequences, even though they cannot connect those dots themselves. But you've gone through enough of it yourself and done enough of your own shadow work and gotten to know yourself so well that you can resonate with others and you can see where they're at on their journey. And so I find it very interesting, even talking with some people I know and their logic and mentality and their verbiage around things and showing me their understanding and or their lack of understanding of where they even are or what they're fighting for, because it's a lot of excuses or justifications, kind of to appease themselves, appease their own ego, and to get validation for doing such from outside themselves. And all the while never recognizing, admitting, or taking ownership of their part in the matter. And even attempting to be the martyr or the saint in the whole thing. And it's like, oh no, you had a part in all of this, but they're choosing not to see it that way because it's too painful. So it's easier to blame outside oneself and focus there and let the world know to justify where they're at because of someone else's behavior, situation, actions, yada, yada, yada. It's excuses. It's bullshit. But we do this as humans. And when we're in the thick of it, that's your choice when you're in the thick of it, right? Like when you're in the thick of it, it's like the test itself. What are you going to do? But most people are so scrambled by that point because they haven't done any of the inner work that they are just going to automatic pilot and habitual everything. Habitual conversation, habitual justification, habitual blaming outside oneself, excusing oneself, explaining oneself, all types of things. And again, it's not, I don't look at it necessarily as bad as much as it's curious. Like it's happened enough times to some people that it's like, still not willing to like take a better look, or get honest. And it's like, it's like they're just not ripe yet. They're just not ready. And yeah, they're showing some never will in certain lifetimes. Like it's just, they're not, I don't know how to say this nicely. They're showing like some people just age and age and age and have time and time and time of opportunity after opportunity of things happening, and they just don't learn the lesson or see that there is a lesson to learn to avoid it from repeating, to recognizing that they're still in that same cycle. It's, in other words, I think what they're showing is they're going to die out that way. That's just the way it is for them. That's the way their life will continue to go in those cycles. And it won't dawn on them otherwise, because I think it's like at a certain point in time, I think this is wrong, but this is what they're showing. It's like the idea of like old dogs can't learn new tricks. I disagree with that. But I guess it depends on the dog, right? Like how much heart is left in them, how much interest, how much spark is left, desire to make a different choice, or if they just accept it what is and are playing the helpless, hopeless card. It's all a choice. It's all serving us one way or the other. It's not right or wrong, and maybe next lifetime will be different. Maybe this is the lifetime for them to learn that. I don't know. It's like who knows all these things? People have millions of theories out there. You have to figure it out on your own. You have to do your own. It's like tried and true, tested, and it's like, how awake are you to determine that? Most people aren't. Most people are just robotic, and they're not thinking, so they can't see the pattern because they're on automatic pilot. Even I've had conversations with people where I will softly point it out and they can't see it. They can't even hear what I'm saying. They just go back into their same automatic pilot. It fell on deaf ears, so to speak. And it's like, well, they're just not ready. They just can't hear it. They take it as something else. They take it as a different meaning, or they take it as, all types of things. The good thing, one of the lessons I've continually learned and continue to work on is that idea of just allowing it, right? Like, I no longer, even though I see the disasters, I see the mess, I see the patterns, I don't attempt to fix them. I don't attempt to point them out. It is what it is. Everybody's responsible for themselves. They're not asking for my assistance. They're not paying for my services. They're not, so it's like, I don't need to take on their burdens. I don't need to do their work. I don't need to, this kind of thing. And I think that's important for all of us to get to that lesson as well. You step aside and just focus on you and healing you and loving you. And sometimes you'll step back in and it's like, Jiminy Crickets, people's lives are a disaster. It's like, you didn't realize how much maybe you were assisting and they just were so wildly unaware. We could go on to it. They're showing all types of stuff again. It's just... Yeah, okay, they're talking about a whole different scenario that I do want to discuss. I really do, but not in this one. It's getting late and I'm tired. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. You can now purchase an audio journey with me using the link below.